If you've ever wondered what was truly possible while managing type 1 diabetes, today's epic story might give you hope for a future where blood sugars are so well controlled while living your life to the fullest with full freedom and flexibility. Now, what I'm talking about is not a cure, but it's as close as we can get for now. And with this story that I want to share with you, I know a lot of you see my own stories and think, well, that's too good to be true. But that's why I love bringing my clients on occasionally to share their progress, their tidbits of knowledge, and what worked for them in hopes that it might spark some ideas for you to make leaps and bounds kind of progress with your own type 1 diabetes. If you don't know who I am, my name is Matt Van de Vecht. I'm a certified master fitness trainer and nutritionist. I live with type 1 diabetes. I'm also a type 1 best-selling author with a recent book, but today's story centers around a client whose journey will truly inspire you. The transformation was incredible, and I can't wait for you to hear what worked for them in hopes that it might give you some ideas as well. Let's get into our theme song and then jump into our exciting interview. I've spent the last 10 years pushing the limits while identifying trends and patterns in my type 1 diabetes management. Follow along as I learn, apply, and share the fitness, nutrition, and lifestyle strategies that I've learned from diabetes experts around the world. The real question is, how can we live fearlessly with diabetes while maintaining stable blood sugars? This podcast is here to give you the answer. My name is Matt Van de Vecht, head coach and co-founder of FTF Warrior, and welcome to Pardon My Pancreas. All right, awesome. Well, I'm excited to be here with somebody who we actually had a chat, was it yesterday, 2 days ago?
Yep.
And blew my mind with the stories that you had. I was like, we got to get this out to the world. So I'm here with Steven today, and he's going to share with us a bit about his story. But before we get into where you're at now, I'd love to give people a little bit of history on you. Do you mind sharing a couple sentences, kind of a summary of how long you've had diabetes and your journey thus far?
So I got diabetes in 7th grade, and it was January 2001. Started off on a mixture of Humalog and Humulin twice a day. That's the only insulin I had to take. I was on a very strict diet. That's how we took care of it back then. And then over the years, the pens started to become popular. So, that was sold to me as more freedom, which it was. But I kind of got it at an age where I wasn't responsible enough maybe to have all that freedom. And so after high school, I noticed I was starting to struggle with controlling it. Like I did when I was with my parents, to help me, eat when I'm supposed to, take insulin when I'm supposed to, kind of thing. And then over the years, I kind of got resentment for diabetes because I wasn't doing as well with it. And also, since high school, I wanted to be a professional musician. And I had made a lot of leeway towards that, a lot of networking, tours, things like that. But once I reached the age of 24, no longer can be on parents' health insurance. So I needed to get a job. So I got a full-time job. But through that, I started to self-medicate a lot, got into drugs really bad, which obviously made everything way worse. I mean, I think I went a year and maybe tested my blood sugar twice. I would just run it high, but I've been 10 years sober and I've been married 3 years, but the struggle still kept going on. I thought if I cared enough about being healthy that I would be. And you can care all you want, but if you don't have the right information, for me at least, it's just not going to happen being healthy with diabetes. And ran across some of your videos and thought I'd give it a try, and here we are now. As I've told you before, a lot of stuff being reversed. Health issues I've had because of bad management over the years has now been reversed back to where they don't see signs of diabetes in these areas. So, yeah.
I mean, absolutely incredible what you've done. Right. And like you said, you thought initially if you just cared more that it would take care of it. But that is the first step, right? Like actually caring. And I was in the same position where probably went a year or more where I was like, I don't even know where my glucometer is, not test blood sugars. And it was a little bit of rebellion on my part. But my goodness. So tell me a bit about the reversing piece. So you had that was done.
So, yeah. I was getting, but before starting this program, I was having reoccurring boils that would pop up, not understanding why. My doctors did explain that, it can be common in diabetics that don't have control over their blood sugars. I, about once a month, would have to be hospitalized for vomiting. And I would vomit for nonstop for 15 hours each time I would go. And they gave me every single type of medicine to stop the vomiting, but it wouldn't. So it was
Oh,
just
wow.
continual vomiting and they did every test they could every single month I would go in. It would just happen, and they couldn't figure it out.
That's tough.
And also, my doctor started to say he started to see diabetes in my eyes, and so I had to start getting
Mm.
monthly eye injections. And they were telling me like your borderline like injections may not even work anymore. And so here I am with the best of intentions, giving almost every minute of my waking day to wanting good blood sugars, but just not being able to control it with your typical eating and insulin.
Right.
And so, yeah. And so, after, starting the program, which I'm almost finished, recently went back to the eye doctor, and he said that all signs of diabetes have been reversed. No more injections. I haven't had any more boils. I haven't gone back. I haven't vomited at all, actually, since, in months, so it's just all these things that, we weren't sure if they were tied to diabetes. It appears that, they were. The eyes we knew, but, and also the stress on my family. Like I said, I've only been married 3 years, and my parents love me very much, but they were seeing me just slowly deteriorate into just one big medical issue. My mental health was horrible. Didn't see much hope of going on and hurting the family. But then, it was your videos I saw, and I started hearing that there's other things that can affect your blood sugar. Never knew that cough, never knew about, the DOM phenomenon or feet on the floor, or that lifting weights would raise blood sugar, or, running, lowering it, all these things that you can do in your day to manipulate.
Mhm.
And even in the midst of this program, I've had a couple major things happen in my life that kind of turned my life upside down for about a week at a time.
Right.
And, but through that, like my entire schedule changed a week ago. But within a day and a half, I adapted. I mean, my 7 day time in range, I've never seen it like that high. It's 89 percent in range for the
Holy
past
cow. For
seven
the
days.
week?
Yes, for the last 7 days.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love it.
So, and also, I don't know if this is just me. This is probably many diabetics probably go through this. I use the Libra 3, and there's times when one of my sensors will read 50 points higher
Mm.
almost all the time, unless I'm around 90 or under. Then I'll test and it'll seem to match. So it's my understanding that it's possibly even more time in range,
Oh,
um,
amazing.
based on finger sticks. So I have my endocrinology appointment next month, the first one since starting the program. So I'll find
Ooh.
out my true A1C,
Yes.
um, because I've had all my A1Cs for the past 15 years have been above 8,
Hmm.
and I've had as high as 13. And I've had one that got down to 6.7, but my time in range was like 25%. Yeah, I was either super high or super low. So
Yeah.
my A1C looked real good, but I knew, that it wasn't because I was healthy. It was just because I was
Right.
balanced.
Wow. I mean, I can't wait for that appointment.
I know. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am
Yeah.
so pumped for you.
Well, and like I'm going to bring all the notes. I'm going to show him, like, giving credit where it's due. He actually in the past year has shown, my doctor has shown a lot of sympathy and empathy
Hmm.
towards me, because he's seen how it was hurting me.
Yeah.
And so, they don't have much time with us each time, but I think he's going to be super pumped about this. So,
That's even better when they celebrate with you and it's not just a quick in and out
because
visit,
I've
right?
never had an endocrinologist celebrate with me, so I've
Hmm.
had nothing to celebrate. So.
Ah. Well, I mean, effort should be celebrated, but I know what you mean.
Yeah,
It's that's going to be amazing. So
yeah.
we'll take us back to before the program then. Like what was it like your rock bottom moment with blood sugar specifically? What does that look like for you?
It was the constant roller coaster that you talk about. It was, I had enough lows that were dangerous that I couldn't explain,
Hmm.
that it got to the point where I couldn't trust any blood sugar that was nearing low.
Wow.
Because I was just thinking well, everything should be fine, but all these times I've been low, I don't understand why I tank. And so going to the hospital multiple times. There was one time, I'm not sure what insulin shock looks like going too low to where you get that. But there was an instance where I was going super low about a year ago, and my wife said that it looked like I was kind of seizing for a minute, and I slowly went to the ground. Don't really have memory of it, but I had taken a bunch of glucose before that happened, and I think it got me out of it, and I was fine. But just instances like that, we went out to Arkansas in the middle of nowhere for our honeymoon, stayed in a cabin, and at about 10 p.m. at night, I was tanking and didn't know why. And I had probably what would be 10 units for me of sugar, and like within 10 minutes, I was just downing it. And 30 minutes after, I was still dropping. And we're in the middle of nowhere. We don't know how to tell people, the EMT, where we're at. My wife finally figured out how to meet halfway somewhere. It's just that trauma.
Yeah.
And, and then you don't truly know how far the trauma or how much the trauma has affected you until you face it. So I know that the part of this program that got me to face that was when it was time to run or do cardio. And when it was time to do that, when my blood sugars were already good.
Right.
But because I had figured out my true basal, my true bolus, took a step of faith, did it, and only dropped about 20 points for a 25-minute run. So that gave me obviously the confidence to do it again the next day and the next day, find that average, And then lifting weights is something I've actually always loved, but the past 5 or so years of just the depression and everything, I stopped. So I'm excited that I'm getting back into that. My wife, really excited. She's a health nut, very, very fit and everything. And so it's helping my marriage. It's helping my relationship with my parents because they're not constantly worried about me.
Oh, sure.
So, yeah.
And that's something a lot of people don't talk about, is this extends beyond just us, right? A lot of people think, oh, I don't want the spotlight. I can deal with this. It's like, well, it's not just you. Everybody else is worried about you.
Yeah.
It impacts other people's plans when we have to stop for a low and all that kind of stuff. You mentioned the true basal and bolus and having confidence in your numbers that enables you to have the freedom to go experiment with other things. So it sounds like that was one of the pivotal moments when it started to click and started to work, where it's like, okay, this is actually going to be helpful. But I'm curious, what gave you the confidence to initially jump in? Like, to trust some stranger on the internet you saw on YouTube, right? To join this program?
Well, really, it's because of all the content you have and how transparent you are. There's a number of things. There's been times I've wanted to learn a different instrument or whatever, and it's like, who do I pay for their program, kind of thing. But with you, I really didn't have a doubt because of all of your accomplishments. I mean, you share your marathon and your triathlon and your Ironman, like we can watch you do it. You share your readings. We can see that you went that 10 days with perfect blood sugar. You have a story of lows and just not really feeling supported in the beginning, like me. And for somebody that's only met 2 type 1 diabetics before this program and actually talked about that, I just didn't think there was anyone else out there as bad as me. So hearing that, it was just like, you know what? It's worth a phone call. And then we talked. I gave you my story. You shared some of yours, and you're just like, I honestly think this program can work for you. And, God has blessed me and my wife with the ability to take that step and do this program. And it was worth everything. Because there's a point with a diabetic where you can't afford not to do something. And I was at that point where I couldn't afford, because I was ready to give up because I thought I was doing everything that there was. Thank goodness for the internet, because without it, I wonder if I ever would have heard or found a community of this kind of thing. So
wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Well, and, I mean, you mentioned our previous call that it extends beyond just the numbers, right? The time and range. Awesome. I love hearing about that. But you were saying, I want to say it was your confidence or mental health, something like that, where it's impacted that as well.
Yes. Well, so I've been dealing with low energy for the longest time, which isn't how I used to. It's just not the person I am. I'm usually the loyal friend that's always up to help out, to keep busy, work hard, all that stuff. And I just realized no matter how much sleep, no matter what I was doing, my energy level is just so low.
Hmm.
And, but I didn't realize how much of that was mental strain from all of my thoughts virtually going towards why can't I get lower? Why am I like, or why can't I get higher? Why can't I be good at diabetes?
Yeah.
Had it for 24 years. You think I would have just stumbled eventually on something that works, but it really is just, I had blinders on where it was food and insulin, and that's how you control it. And no matter which way I took food or which way I took insulin, it wasn't doing it.
Hmm.
And so now that I know my insulin needs and I know how foods affect me, how exercise affects me, with my mind being free of that, so much more energy. This new chapter of my life with my job, how it just totally changed on an instant. 2 months ago, that would have freaked me out because it requires a lot of, being there mentally. I'm a caretaker for men with autism. And so I'm around them in their homes, helping them through their day, and they're very active. And it takes a lot of focus and energy, and I didn't have it. And now it just feels like I have so much room in my mind to give to whatever moment I'm in. And so it's just a snowball effect of good,
Hmm.
because I now know that after work, I don't have to sit down on the couch and be a couch potato because I feel exhausted. I can go for that run and that walk with my dog afterwards. I can wake up earlier because I'm going to bed sooner because I realize my spike isn't as bad if I get an extra hour of sleep.
Yeah.
And so, they're not even really sacrifices when you think about it. It helps. So,
Well, I like the snowball effect that you were saying too. Is you fix one thing and it makes the next thing better, and just continue. I mean, your dog's probably stoked.
oh yeah.
We get to walk. That's
So,
amazing. Okay, and then we're gonna get the A1C next month, obviously. So don't know that yet, but time and range
yeah.
around 90% on average, which is fantastic.
Mhm.
But I think the real win here is more tied to quality of life. Like you said, the certainty behind dosing, so that it's not taking up all this mental effort, right? Or you can
Mhm.
be more present. That's amazing.
Well, and also, like I said, being somewhat newly married, it was hard to think about a future. Like,
Mm.
do I want to have kids? Am I going to be around? Am I going to be, nothing against people with disabilities, but in my mind, to be that dad that has an amputation or can't see or whatever because of my choices, that's what I just felt like I couldn't live with. So, like, anything about planning future, changing jobs, starting new hobbies, being spontaneous, that just wasn't even a thought in my head. It was just getting by every day. It became the goal of the day, don't die.
Right.
So, and whether or not that's an exaggeration or not, I do know how unhealthy I was, but that's just the mindset you eventually get to after decades of just not being able to figure it out. So,
When we create, to a certain degree, our own reality based on our beliefs and thought patterns. So if I believe today is just about surviving, I'm not going to think about having fun or
yeah.
taking my wife out on a date, right? Like I'm focused on not dying.
Yeah.
And so that's what it becomes about. So, man, that is so exciting.
Well,
It
and also I'm new to goals. So
uh,
like this has shown me, because and I'm sure a lot of people could relate to this, but after you make a certain amount of mistakes for a certain amount of years in your life, you start to forget what success in anything really looks like, because you're constantly feel like a failure. And so, especially starting this program, I was having issues finding that first step, that basal. I thought it was going to be easy, and I was further off than I knew. And but once I found that, it was like, wait, I did it. Like, and like you said, there's no failure in it, but I was so used to failing that I just called everything failure.
right.
And so even now, I'm still learning the feeling of success,
Hmm.
and that applies to everything else in my life. I can go for that. I can have this goal, that goal. The dreams I had when I was younger, I can pick those back up. I'm not. I may be disabled, but thankfully if I'm going to have a disease, I have one that can be controlled.
Yeah.
And if it's controlled, I can live a long, normal life. And that's what the future is now. If something's going to take me, I'm pretty sure it's not going to be diabetes now.
What a powerful thing to say, though, right? Where it's like, that's no longer the biggest threat. That's a big deal. Well, and I mean, as we wrap up, I'd love to hear your thoughts, just in case I missed anything. Is there anything you wanted to add in, or a part of your story that you were hoping to share? Or maybe any nuggets you want someone else to hear?
If there is any more like-minded diabetics like me, if you're thinking about doing this program, remember that all the tests you go through and all these things, there is no right or wrong. It's just figuring out who you are. Because somewhere after the second week part, I did get in a mental space of like, oh no, like I had a goal of having my basal and my bolus, all that done first week.
Oh,
and once I didn't, those old thinking habits came back into my mind of just like, did I just steal my fate to let my wife down, my parents down, Matt down, my job, my dog, everything I love? Like, am I failing again? And it's just rewatching the videos, rereading the things and reminding, like, okay, there is no failure. He wouldn't say that if it wasn't true.
yeah.
And then again, once again, just accepting that I can be successful.
Yeah. No failure, just data, right? We're all just learning about ourselves, data. Like you were saying.
Because I used to think like, oh man, if my insulin ratio is too low or high, that's going to tell everyone else that I'm unhealthy or I'm, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. It's who I am. And if you want to get better, you have to accept the way your body currently is.
It is what your body needs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Finding the balancing point. That's huge. Love that, man. Well, this is just exciting. I mean, I get to now tell you that I'm proud of you because you're the reason that you got here and you're going to keep going, right? It's so easy for people to be like, oh, I joined this program and that's the reason. It was part of your journey, but you put the effort in. You made a decision in the beginning to join the program, and then you made another decision to take action once you were in. So I just want to say congrats to you, and I'm so happy for you for all the efforts you've put in for implementing. And I cannot wait to hear about that next endo appointment and see where things are rolling. Yeah. But I mean, even already, it's just an incredible difference that you've made. So,
and I think I might have mentioned this to you the other day too, but I just wanted to say again, like the field I'm in as a caretaker, especially with like autism and mental disabilities, there's a lot of those people that have type 1 diabetes, and they're being taken care of by great people, but it's really hard to fully understand diabetes unless you have it.
Right.
And so after your book came out, I've actually shared that information with, some of the nurses where I work and the staff that do have diabetic. And so they're all saying, I'm getting that book because they know me personally. They know what I've gone through and the struggles I've had, and they've seen my numbers. They've seen the change in my attitude, the smile on my face every day, the energy I have. And so, it's a great book, and I know it's helping a lot of people. But when I've been in this profession for 12 years, and it's kind of the same story when you talk about a client that has diabetes mixed with something else like autism or mental illness, and just how tough it is. But then you realize that a lot of these people with these disabilities, they all run on routine.
Yeah.
And because of that, these formulas that you've figured out, like those can be the answer to a lot of these issues, especially for an individual that can't really communicate for themselves. So being able to look at a routine and be like, hey, he actually runs high a little bit around lunch, so why don't we do our daily walk, before that, or do this. So
right, that's beautiful.
Congratulations. Yeah,
I hadn't considered that, reaching other populations. That's exciting, and thank you
because it's real life application stuff. So and that's what helps these kind of people. So,
and that was the goal, is to make it actionable. So thank you for spreading the word, recommending it. For anybody watching, it's called the Blood Sugar Freedom Formula. If you want to go grab it on Amazon. But no, just again, thank you so much, Stephen, for your time today, for letting me share your story, because it's just such a big deal, and I love highlighting you guys. I know you mentioned you found me on YouTube, some stranger talking about diabetes. So for anybody who is watching this, maybe you haven't gone down that rabbit hole yet, you can actually shortcut the whole process. And what brought Stephen in here into our ecosystem as well, there's a free training we made on blood sugar formulas that kind of lays out the introduction to it, how they work. You can grab that at diabetesinaction.com for everybody watching. So diabetesinaction.com. But again, Stephen, super proud of you. Really excited for what's ahead. And again, thank you for your time today.
Yep. Awesome.
Cool. Everybody else, thanks for hanging out. Go check out that diabetesinaction.com. We'll see you guys in the next one. And keep up the fight.